what other things, as far as their performance, do you think they should keep their mind on and actually look at, other than your test, take a look at these other things to see what you should change?
Man, there's so many things. And that's like, if you come to Marek too, what we're doing, like, you guys know the lab panel that we're getting is insane. We're testing like 20, 30, 40, sometimes different lab markers. Your things like 12, 15 pages, because there's so much that goes into human optimization from health standpoints, but also to performance. So things like performance, like we were talking about before, prolactin's like one that I never thought about, really. And I was telling you guys, I was kind of uninterested in sex for a while. And, I'm here sitting thinking that I'm just, aging, I'm getting older, I'm getting more mature. Like, I care more about work than, my beautiful fiance is next to me, but yeah, it's cool. And then I get my labs tested. My prolactin's out the roof. Yeah. And, that's something. And the prolactin can be causing that low libido that people are coming to us saying, but downstream could be affecting your performance as well. Estrogen too. And estrogen, I think people think about in the wrong way a lot, because estrogen is hypertrophic in its own regard too. So you want to screw up your gains, like lower your estrogen too much. And there's people walking around with like no estrogen. They're just taking these aromatase inhibitors thinking that that's what they're supposed to do. Probably not. So yeah, we got prolactin, estrogen, we got the free testosterone we talked about, we got the IGF numbers, which that's debatable, but something to look at too. Even just your normal, your minerals and things like that, so many different things to look at.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And recently I was on Tom Segura's podcast, and we were going back and forth about stuff, and he was asking about performance enhancing drugs. He's asking about steroids. And I said, you know what, man? I said, unfortunately, like, it's a big story. Like, there's a lot to know. He's like, all I need to know is where to get them. So there's a lot of people that probably come to you guys that are probably kind of hunting for it. And what is your advice to, a 25-year-old guy who's just like, trying to get a little bit bigger? Yeah,
that's hard. So there's a part of me that's very like libertarian, and I'm like, whatever you want to put in your body, you should really be allowed to. Yeah. But at the same time, I am a doctor, and we're treating people medically, and our license says for whatever stupid reason that we cannot give steroids in order for performance enhancing, which is kind of crazy. It's like you can't make people have more muscle and less body fat. But that's another story for another time, but it's just kind of crazy.
Take hormones to be a different sex, and that would be okay.
Yeah, or like, something that recently I thought about, like, as a podiatrist, I prescribed a lot of times like toenail fungus type stuff. Toenail fungus is not going to hurt anything. So getting rid of it is basically aesthetic, right? Like, it's only for aesthetics. The medication that we give, the terbinafine, antifungal, terrible for your liver, terrible for your markers. So I'm like, I'm allowed to just give that for beauty purposes. But if a guy wants to have bigger biceps, they can't take testosterone. Like, the laws are the same as like heroin. It's crazy to me. But anyway, so that's like one part of it, is there's that part of my mind that's like, man, I'm sorry, I can't just help you to do this safely, because I do feel like you should be able to have a little bit of control. But unfortunately, we are governed by the laws. It's what it is. So, I would probably try to talk these guys into anyways, like, maybe you should just dial in every other aspect of your life first. These guys will come, and sometimes their complaints are basically like, I can't put on weight. And I'm like, okay, what are you eating? They can't even really tell me. And then it's like, I have like a 6-inch sub at like lunch, and then like at dinner, like maybe some spaghetti or something. Like, dude, so you start there, like, even, dial in your food. Like just do that first, and then come back to me after you're eating like 4,000 calories consistently of like, the muscle building foods. And then what's your sleep like? Oh, like most nights I stay up till like 1 playing video games or something, and then I got to get up for like class at 7. Okay, dial that in too. Like, let's dial all this stuff in before we take that plunge, because you're potentially looking at getting on like at 20. Maybe you're gonna need to run it till you're like 80. So 60 years of pinning, you're ready to do that. Like a few times a week. That's crazy.
Wait, so quick question about the 20 to 80 thing. Why is it that when people get on, the typical trend is that they must be on or they will be on for part of the rest of their life? Why is that?
So unfortunately, I don't think more recently it's been the trend where more people are kind of wising up and kind of realize that you need to get on and stay on. Before, and like coming up, Mark, you probably knew people would blast and post-cycle therapy and I think that's probably really unhealthy.
Yeah, people do like 12 or 16-week cycles and things like that.
And then they run like Clomid and HCG and stuff to come off and crash. But so what happens is your body's really smart about things, and it's going to sense that it's getting testosterone from an outside source. And so it shuts down the system. And so you quit producing testosterone. And if that goes on for long enough, you can just be stuck where you're not making testosterone anymore. Also, having high levels of androgens and things have been shown to be toxic to the testes, actually. So the Leydig cells that produce testosterone, if you're on too high of androgens for too long, you may damage them and make it so they're no longer producing testosterone. So when you get off, you're down to the levels of a female. And so that's why we say if you get on, you're probably going to need to stay on.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about Marek Health, the premium telehealth clinic owned by Derek for More Plates, More Dates. Now, when some people think about Marek Health, they think it's just another one of those testosterone companies or another one of those blood work companies. But Marek Health is really cool because, yeah, you can get your blood work done, you can get hormone optimization, but you can also get nootropics. You can also get Viagra. You can get literally whatever you need from that clinic. And they make it very, very easy for you. That's why we love Marek. So, Andrew, how can people learn about it?
Yes, Marek Health is not just a one-trick pony, but if you did want to get your labs done, we highly recommend the Power Project panel. That's 28 different labs. That's also going to come with a client care coordinator that's going to give you a lab analysis, and they're going to work with you and help you optimize your body. Again, that's at marekhealth.com/powerproject. At checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $101 off that entire panel. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Have you assisted people in coming off?
We have. So yeah, it's a lot easier, I'd say, to come off of TRT than like performance enhancing doses. When we're talking like a dose of 100 to 120, maybe 150 milligrams a week versus a bodybuilding cycle where they're doing maybe a gram, which is 1,000, milligrams of these things, like that's different. So yeah, we certainly do assist people to get off, usually for fertility reasons. So it's a big one that people come off. They get off because they can kind of, that same system where the testosterone production is very closely related to fertility. And so when they come off, they have an easier time, conceiving. So that's one.
And has that been successful?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we use that.
That's good to know because sometimes people are like, it might wipe you out forever.
Yeah.
But there is that possibility that maybe before you ever went on, you didn't know whether you were compatible with your mate previously. That's
what I tell pretty much every guy when they're coming to us and they're curious and they're a candidate for TRT and they want to. I tell them if fertility is at all a concern, like get it tested before getting on. And if you have good viable sperm, get them frozen, just have a backup plan. Kind of sucks because we see bodybuilders who wildly abuse this stuff for years. They have tons of children. And then occasionally there's a guy on TRT with a really low dose and all of a sudden they're infertile.
Right.
And we, as far as I know, I don't think we have the data that show the exact number. Like, 25% of every guy will be coming for, we don't have that. It's like really just a crapshoot. Like each person's very individual that way.
Do you have a hypothesis of that? Like, do you have from what you've seen and everything you've heard, is there something in your head like it might actually end up being this, even though there's no hard research and numbers to show?
I would say more likely than not, the fertility is not really an issue.
No?
Yeah, just based on all the bodybuilders and things. Like you guys probably know so many bodybuilders that have full families. Like wasn't an issue for them. They likely didn't come off either. That would have hurt their career. They probably stayed on Tren and Anadrol and everything else and pumped out babies. So
I would say since I'm not a doctor, I could say this. I would say it's all reversible, and it appears to be reversible. However, you could do so much damage, right? True. And there's individual people that might have pre-existing conditions that lead them to causing more permanent damage.
Certainly, yeah. I would agree with that.
Our guy, what's the gorilla chemist's name?
Gorilla Chemist.
Oh, yeah.
Brian.
Gorilla Chemist.
Gorilla Chemist is his name.
Yeah, Gorilla Chemist. he came on because he's
Moscow.
Brian Moscow. Yeah. He was talking about fertility stuff that was going on with him, and he knew people that were fine, but he himself had to dial things back and figure out ways to get it back. So
see,
it's
super
interesting
individual.
What
seems to be like cool too, and I haven't really looked into it, but have you seen that like it seems like most guys running high androgens have females, so they have daughters. Yeah,
I've seen that a lot. I've seen that in a lot of like MMA fighters and like just badass dudes.
So you think that's more than a statistic? That it's like
I don't know. It's something that's like anecdote, I think, within our community now. I don't know if anyone's ever like looked into it. it seems to be true. Like all these pros and stuff are pumping out daughters.
Yeah, and like Navy SEALs and like dudes at that like crazy top level, like they're having a lot of females. It's pretty interesting. But what about birth defects? Like when being on gear, like I've heard a lot of dudes say like they want to come off because they want to make sure that they have a healthy baby. Me being one of those dudes. But like, yeah, is there any statistics or anything that shows that like if you're on a bunch of shit, this could happen if you have a offspring?
Yeah, what's hard with that too is we don't really have a lot of good research on this, because just like TRT in and of itself is relatively new. We also can't do good studies of people running, like we can't ethically load people up with tons of steroids and things to see. One could kind of hypothesize that you're probably going to run into potentially some issues, at least change. Like, I think like Dr. Huberman, Andrew Huberman, you guys have had on, I think he did some research himself on like testosterone and its differentiations and things that it has on the embryo and the fetus and everything in the womb. It's pretty interesting. So hormones play a big role in development while they're in the womb, so I would suspect there's probably something. And then when you're using like underground labs and things, you're exposing them to like the heavy metals that they're getting, the terrible, all the things that they're making the drug with, so that can probably be an issue too.
Hey guys, I've seen that you guys have been commenting about how much you hate the whispering outro, asking you to like, comment, and subscribe. So I'm going to whisper again because I know you don't like it. So, hey, I know we're bringing you some good content. So like, comment, subscribe, and share it with some friends so we can all help each other out. And maybe I'll stop whispering in your ear. Bye.